Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast with your host, Mike Knight, where we'll bring you great information about a vegan plant-based diet. It doesn't matter if you've been vegan for years, part-time vegan, or just gathering more information. This podcast is for you. Thanks again for joining, and let's get today's tour started.
Welcome, everybody, to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Knight. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. I'm glad you've tuned in to hear me bring someone else's journey to you today for their plant-based vegan lifestyle. In case you're new to the show, hey, number one, thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to the show. You'll find this podcast is for everyone, and I will interview people so that you can hear about their story, their journey, possibly about their business or their passion or both, and any causes they have. And my main goal is to inform and educate you, and also hope that you find people in the show relatable. So together we can raise awareness, that a plant-based vegan lifestyle is for everyone and not just, a certain type of person. And for all of the returning listeners, thanks so much for always following and for your emails that you send to vegantourguide@gmail.com and for subscribing to the show and helping spread the word. Now for today's show. Today's show is somebody that just, whenever you meet someone and you find that people are always just naturally drawn to them, they've just got that type of personality that just everyone can relate to somebody. Well, that's who this is today. That's who's coming on today, Shonda. And when you hear me talk to her, you'll hear that in her voice, her passion, her energy, and you'll see why. I mean, every time before we even got to know each other, because we're both from my home market of Charlotte, North Carolina, and so we would cross paths at, like Veg Fest events and just some, open events for, about, vegetarian, vegan and stuff like that. And she would be cooking there most of the time, cooking demos. And people would just stay and hover and listen to her. And I'd find that people just were enthralled, if you were, in her message. And so then her and I just kind of, started talking. And I said, look, I've got to have you on the show. I've got to have you relay to people your message, your journey. And so it's one I know that you will find very interesting, very entertaining. Like I said, I love Shonda's energy. I mean, everyone knows I've got way too much energy most of the time. And I know that I'm just naturally this way. And Shonda, you're going to find is the same way. I mean, she is matching my energy level step for step, but she brings a lot to this interview. So I can't wait for you to hear it. So sit back, relax, and here's Shonda.
All right, Shonda, welcome to Vegan Tour Guide.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
You got it. What's going on?
Oh, what isn't going on, Mike? What isn't going on? There's a lot that's been going on, but it's good. It's all good stuff. And, I'm grateful for progress and productivity. This is the season for it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because I know you definitely do a whole lot for people, focusing on their wellness and getting them ready. And of course, some of us focus on wellness year round. And then there's the people also that, they start seeing spring and summer come around. So all of a sudden wellness sometimes jumps straight to top of mind then as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I try to encourage people to realize how important it is to keep wellness at the forefront of their life, to make it a lifestyle, because it's not seasonal at all. Unfortunately, most don't see it like that.
Exactly. Well, look, all right, let's do this. Here's what I love to do in the show is, and everyone knows kind of this, listen to my show before, and for the first-time users, first thing I always love doing is getting people just to tell their journey to plant-based, because I think that helps people relate and find unique common things in someone like you and maybe what your journey's like, because our journeys have some similarities, a lot of us, but also they're different, which is awesome. So what was that for you? When did you start, and kind of how did you kind of transition, if you will, to plant-based?
Sure. So for me, it started back in the Caribbean around the age of maybe 12, 13, the awakening occurred. I remember being in the yard. In the islands we have animals, domestic and not, roaming all over the place. And I remember there being a goat in the yard. And then later on, I remember us having goat water, which is equivalent to goat soup, like chicken soup. And I put two and two together, and I was like, where's the goat? And they were like, oh, pretty much the goat water that we're having, the goat is in there. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I started my journey then, and that's when I decided to pull beef out of my diet. And I think maybe a year or two before that, I usually would leave the U.S. Virgin Islands, where I'm from. I'm from the island of St. Thomas, born and raised in the United States Virgin Islands. But my dad resided, and he still does, in the British Virgin Islands on the island of Tortola. So in the summertime, true islander. So the summertimes I would go by my dad, and I guess I used to have my physicals in the summertime, and I would be up there with him. And I remember going to the doctor, and the doctor just casually saying that, eggs cause cholesterol, or it can increase it. However, it was worded to me at the age of probably 12. And my dad used to make omelets. He made the best omelets, and he probably had just made one that morning. So I don't know if the doctor had just stated, what did you have for breakfast for it to have come up. But anyway, I remember him saying that, Mike, and that was the last omelet I ate.
Wow.
That day as a child. So I think from then, looking back in hindsight, I have the ability to go cold turkey on certain things, which can be good, bad, or indifferent. So I think it started maybe a year or two before, and then with the goat. So I pulled egg out of my diet, and then for me, I still made it for my siblings and stuff because it was seven children. So it's 2 boys and then there's 5 girls. So me being the first girl and 4 behind of me, I was pretty much Cinderella. So I did the bulk of the cooking. So I still made it for my siblings and parents and whatnot, but I didn't eat it. But that whole thing with the goat just opened up my eyes. So at that time, what I did was I pulled beef out of my diet, and we didn't eat a whole lot of pork, so that wasn't a big thing. And I decided from the beef, it normally only take one thing, and we start going and going. Then it was pork, and we didn't eat much pork chops anyway in my household. And then from there, I think I stayed steady with those things growing up in the Caribbean, and then also I was overweight. So when I went to college and I came to college, I recall being at UNC Charlotte, right up the road from you and I was eating chicken. And before then, this was 2002. Before then, the year 2000, I decided, okay, I'm overweight. I'm trying to get healthier. I said, December 31st, 1999, this is going to be the last soda that I have. So I was already on a journey of eliminating things out of my diet. Like, why am I unable to lose this weight? So I started to find it as a fun game. Every year I would pull something out, whether it was stop eating fast food or stop drinking soda or stop eating pizza. In that year, I decided to cut all the like the pizza and the sodas and things like that. But I recall being in college and literally eating chicken in the residence hall at UNC Charlotte. And I was like, this is going to be the last chicken. And people were like, what? Are you serious? And I said, this is going to be the last chicken. And I stopped eating chicken. And then from there, and I was 22 at that time. And then from there, it was turkey. But I believe I quit eating turkey in 2000. And the funny thing with turkey, how that happened was, I know it was a cartoon and everything, but around Thanksgiving time, they would normally have like a man or a woman, and then they would have somebody dressed up as a turkey, and they'll go gobba, 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 and they'll be dancing side to side. Yeah. And I said to myself, Mike, you know what? If a turkey can act like me, I don't need to eat it. So I quit eating turkey. And they were like, you're crazy. And I said, look how the turkey looked the morning after Thanksgiving. I said, you still have it in the pan and they have the grease and stuff. I said, that always freaked me out. And I said, I'm not going to eat it anymore. And I said, there's so many other things that I can eat, including other meat animal, products. So that's when I pulled turkey out. And I think 2 years later, so again, I was already on that awakening path and took it out. And then I decided what was left. I think fish was left. And I remember saying, okay, I think I went to an aquarium. And I remember the fish talking to me, these kind of conversations you keep to yourself because you don't want people might put you in a mental ward. I remember, and people laugh at me. They think I'm crazy. people thought I was crazy, but I went to an aquarium, and I remember the fish looking at me and saying, "What about us? What about me?" And I said, I got you. I'm going to take you out of my my diet, too. I'm not going to eat you anymore, but give me some time. And soon enough, what I decided to do was shrimp, all the scavengers, because I cut them out of my diet, and I may have eaten something, kind of go back and forth maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And I was like, you don't eat that stuff anyway. Let's pull that out. And to back it up, when I was in elementary school, my original path was to be the first female governor of the United States Virgin Islands. And I remember being in elementary school, and I remember going up, and I think they still serve it here in the U.S., where you know how you could get the milk in a little plastic container? a little plastic pouch. So back in the islands, and I'm sure they do it here, you would stick your fingers in it, and it will pop up on the milk, and it would kind of look like boobs. Crazy stuff kids do. And crazy stuff. I know. Just, this recording might put me in a mental ward.
I love it. Hey, look. You got to be original. And that's how people remember you and remember a message.
Yes, the one that's not. But I remember, Mike, I swear to God, I remember sitting down with the milk, and I remember saying, I can't have this milk anymore, but I didn't tell anybody. And I said, I remember the milk, the cow on the little milk thing saying, we didn't give them permission to take our milk. They are raping us, and we want you to be our representative. So I was like, okay, I'm going to become an attorney. And I said, I'm going to represent the cows in court. And anytime I go to drink the milk, more specifically that milk, because I guess the little cow was on it and they could see me, the cow was like, you're drinking the evidence. So if you drink the evidence, when we go to court, we won't have any proof. So I just stopped drinking milk. So I actually started in elementary school, and then I think I was in middle school with the eggs, and then I was in like maybe the 9th grade with the beef. And then once I got to college, they were like, you're drinking the evidence. So I dibby-dabby with milk, but not much. And I went years without really drinking much at all. Even when I came to the U.S., the mainland, every now and then I would crave milk, so to speak. And when I drink it, I would feel my stomach would be upset anyway. Yeah. That was the craziest thing. So for me, it started from elementary school with the cow saying you got to be our representative, to middle school with the cutting out the egg simply because the doc said it's high in cholesterol, just making a common notion. And then the goat water with the goat, I was like, where's the goat? Or one of the goats are missing. And then from there, I kept going. In college, I was like, this is going to be the last. Let me pull this turkey out because the turkey is doing dances like me. And I was like, this is the last on chicken. I said, okay, no more shellfish. And then from there, I think I pulled everything out except like salmon and maybe 1 or 2 other fish. And I was like, I wonder if I can thrive on the earth. And there's always going to be somebody that's going to tell us we cannot do something that we want to do. So that's when the Aquarius comes out in me. That's the rebellious side that comes out in me. Like, you can't tell me what I can't do. And it may not have been towards me, but I know people was thinking it's impossible not to eat meat. So I said the only way for me, Shonda S. Caines, to find out if I could live off the earth is to quietly test it. And I decided I am going to try it. So I guess at that time I was pescatarian because I ate salmon and stuff like that. But I'd already pulled the cheese and everything out. And then I think 2009. So I'm actually right at my 8th year anniversary. I think it happened in March, but now I think I just keep it as April because I can't really remember if it was February or March. So now I said just with Earth Day and our Veg Fest, I just coin it now. April is my vegan anniversary, and I decided to try it, and I have not had any setbacks, thank God. I haven't had any hidden moments. I haven't had any cravings. Now, once I got off of it, I did miss like salmon because I used to do like the crab cakes, But other than that, I've been doing well. I've been responsible, Mike. When I go to the doctor, I always have the doctor to check my protein. I do like a nutritional panel analysis. And being an endurance athlete, I have candid conversations. I ask her, well, what about soy? I want to have children. Will it affect me? And I was just reading books and all this stuff instead of jumping on the bandwagon, doing a research and being responsible because I think it's a hard pill to swallow if you choose to do something and then you find out later it it is now adversely affecting you. And that's something that you would have to live with. So I would check with her. And my doctor was an internal medicine doctor. And she said, as long as you're not doing soy cheese, soy butter, soy, she was like, you'll be fine. But every year, religiously, when I go to the doctor, I have a nutritional panel analysis done. And my biggest thing on there is the protein and everything. And it's good. I did a 50-miler November of 2015, and I fueled well. I take all my food with me, even when I went to Hawaii for 11 days. I took beans and peas and everything but the pan and the oil. Yeah, so for me, it works. So for me, even as an endurance athlete, being able to run 15 or 20 miles and getting it to the point where it works for my body, and then being able to shower quickly and train a client or train with a client or teach a fitness class, it is definitely possible. But I always tell people, more than likely, you may already have some mineral or vitamin deficiencies. We all do. We live in America. The soil is depleted. The best thing, if you want to change your diet, is to have a conversation with your doctor, of course, and have a thorough blood work done to see where you are. Because I think, Mike, what happens with a lot of people, they try to blame it on whatever the diet is, using loosely, that it didn't work. But you have had an underlying issue all along, and it's because you have made a change. You blame it on that. That's like you sit all the time, and now you walking, and your knee hurts, and you're saying, well, it's because of walking. No, you may have too much weight. And now the walking is letting you know that you need to keep walking.
Yes.
For me, absolutely. So for me, it has been awesome. Sometimes I eat more whole foods than other times. Like now the spring is here, I want to eat more raw foods, which is natural because it's more in season for a lot of stuff and it's abundance. But it's been great. And a lot of my fitness friends that have done it, whether I knew about it or privately, and then they share it with me, they were like, man, my recovery is stupid. They were like, my recovery is crazy. Like when I did my ultra, my 50-mile, because I've done a few ultras, I finished like at 8 o'clock Saturday night, and Monday morning I was back training with clients.
Yep. I've interviewed several people. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, they did not believe me. I had to bring my medal to work. They were like, there is no way. And during that season, because I wanted to push my body as much as possible, I think in 2015, that was my 8th year keeping off my 90 pounds. I wanted to see what would happen to the body. So I've gone from being a couch potato to thinking, if I run for like 24 hours, what would happen to the body? Now I'm like just very creative, or curious, I should say, and crazy. But I bounced right back, and I actually ended up doing 3 marathons, 2 5Ks, and a 50-mile in 33 days, and I did not miss work. And every last one of them was out of state.
Whoa! Look at you. Get it.
I bounced right back, and people was like, how did you do it? And I was like, no shame, but I eat plants.
Well, all right. Well, let's get into that, because I know I've got people listening and that would love to know. All right, when you talk about that, what then are some of the great plants that you were eating for that type of regimen that you were fueling with? What are some maybe meals or maybe even just plants in general that you would say, hey, incorporate these into recipes?
Something that I knew that I made sure, outside of even just the plants as well, I also made sure, outside of going to, what I also did too leading up to that, I had just had my physical in July, and when I decided, okay, this is a tomfoolery that I'm going to do, I went back to my doctor, and I let her know what I was going to do, and I asked her to double, triple check my joints and to check my heart, my lungs, and everything. So that is a disclaimer. I said, you know what? You're a little extra. So let's go back to the doctor and get double checked, because she checked me just for good health and et cetera. But I went back and I had a conversation with her because I trusted her and said, look, this is what I'm looking to do in the fall. And I know I just saw you a couple of weeks ago, but I want you to make sure that there aren't any issues that I might need to be, whatever the case may be. So that's something that I did outside of the food, being responsible, because you might go run 10 miles and I'm talking about I could do it too. Well, no, Shonda, Mike been running or Mike been training. Sometimes you got to stay in your lane, and also be cautious. So outside of that, I also linked up with this guy that's actually an ex-Marine, and he was an athlete, and I was getting massages done for athletes, but I had him likewise checking me. Like up to the week before I signed up, I went to him twice. So within maybe 2 weeks, Mike, I went to him maybe 2 or 3 times. And I said, I'm going to have you make the final decision. I said, I want you to stretch and pull me and all different stuff, and I want you to let me know. I know mentally I'm strong enough, but I want you to be able to let me know, based on what you know about me and how my muscle are, do you think I'm equipped? And she was like, the rate you going? He said, because if you ran 20 miles this morning and you upright and, you're fluid, go for it. So those are 2 things that I did. And outside of that, too, I think I was going to a chiropractor as well. That's something that I incorporate as well because I want to make sure my hips and my joints and stuff are good. But when it comes to food, of course, listening to my body. If I was supposed to run a certain amount of miles and I felt tired, I either delayed it till the afternoon or I delayed it to the next day. That's a big problem. A lot of, I could say runners have a problem with, because you'll see them like say, oh, I'm supposed to do 10 miles or even 5 miles on Saturday, but my kid have soccer and they're stressed. And I'm like, just do it on flipping Sunday. Like, what's the big deal? It's just 24 hours. So my thing also is to realize that life is fluid. Life happens, and it's okay to change your schedule, because I realize it's going to cause more stress to the body, cause more inflammation by you stressing yourself because you have to change your schedule because of responsibilities, really. So those are some stuff I did. I stayed hydrated. I did soak, especially coming up to it. Soaking became my friend. And I also...
soaking?
Yeah, soap, like a bath, getting in with Epsom salt and lavender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have like an Epsom salt for athletes. Oh, I was doing my research. I was like, I can't die out here in the woods and my family in the house. Like, they think I'm crazy. So that goes back to being responsible for whatever we're planning to do. That's just like, if you're going to go climb a Mount Everest, just put something on your back and go, you got to set up. But something that I realized that's very, very powerful, a good combination, is like quinoa and lentils.
Okay. Yeah.
Quinoa and chickpeas. Something that I fuel with that really worked well too is sweet potatoes. I remember the first time I did a 15-miler. All I had on me was sweet potatoes. I think I had already, and it was in the fall time, and I'm from the island, so I started running on Sundays. I done changed my whole schedule and abandoned my friends. I was like, I don't do the cold. I don't have a problem running by myself. So I started chasing the weather. It's funny. Yeah. I started chasing the weather, so I figure out like on a Sunday what time will work for me. So I started running maybe about 2 o'clock, which would be too hot for most people, but I prefer warmer weather. And I remember having like lentils and quinoa and waiting about an hour, and then I took a sweet potato. And Charlotte, so I actually ran from the Dowd YMCA uptown all the way down to Westinghouse.
Good gracious.
And then I put a picture on Facebook. I was just joking, but people were so concerned. I was like, can somebody come and pick me up? When is the bus? And then I ran back, and when I saw my Facebook, it was lit. People were like, oh, my God, did somebody pick her up? And I was like, it was okay. I mean, when in doubt, walk. And that's what piqued my interest in 2013, that I can actually run a marathon, because I was scheduled to do a half marathon maybe within about 4 weeks. And I was like, oh, so if you just ran 15 miles and you finish and you had more, gas in the tank and you dancing, I was like, maybe you could do a 26.2. And then the night before my race in November of 2013, I upgraded. And of course, again, people was like, are you sure? It's like, man, I got this. Mentally, I'm strong. I said, when you have lost 90 pounds and have been able to keep it off for so many years, 26.2 miles is nothing to me. No offense. It might, you might run into a wall. I have yet to meet the wall that people talk about.
Yeah.
It changes your life, and that's a whole nother conversation. So for me, sweet potatoes, peanut butter, lentils and quinoa, chickpeas and quinoa, brown rice is a good one too. I was making me drinks called like, vegan power, and like I would call it, Green Molly. I call my car Hunter Green. So I call my car Green Molly, by way of Bob Marley. I'm from the islands. I got out the island. So I call my car Green Molly. Yeah, so I started. Yeah, I know, I'm special. So
I love it. I love
calling this drink, Green Molly, but it had like spirulina in it. Moringa, maca powder. Of course, it would have a little bit of protein powder in it. I keep the protein powders very, very clean. Like Sun Warrior might be one that I use. What else I would put in there? Of course, I'll put like some non-dairy milk in there, and like chia seeds and flaxseed. Chia seeds and flaxseed is your friend. Now, if you're not accustomed to all that fiber, that's not your friend out. But I've been blessed where when I run, I rarely have to use the restroom at all. And I know most people say that you should cut like your greens and your fiber leading up to a race. But for me, I believe in cleaning up my diet and cleaning up my tank about 2 weeks out. Okay. Especially 7 days out. So for me, if I got a race coming up, let's say on Mother's Day, I think that's the 14th. That's a week from Sunday. By now, I need to be drinking more water. I'll get in more coconut water. I will look into getting some hot cherry juice, organic, to have on site. I had it after my 50 mile. I had it in the car waiting for me. I purchased some organic carrot juice. I had that waiting on me. And for me, it's just infusing my diet with as much whole food as possible. And that was like watermelon, pineapple, ginger, oranges, grapefruit, a lot of kale, spinach, bok choy, couscous. Anything that you could think of that came from the earth, I was eating, and I was eating it at a high volume. And I tried my best not to have too much processed food. I know a lot of, like, for instance, I could reference runners because that's a primary thing that I do. I'm a triathlete as well and a cyclist. But I know a lot of people, like, the night before, Mike, would go out and they would eat pizza and all that stuff. And I'm like, if you're not accustomed to that food, now, if you're accustomed to eating pizza every day or a couple times a week, your body's accustomed to that. And I'm, like, trying to stay focused. That's not what you want to do. Now, when I did my first ultra marathon, I think that was in 2014. I did have pizza, but it was a very clean pizza, and it was still early in the day. I think, and with something like that, you gonna burn it off anyway. But wherever I went up in, I think in Albany, New York, it was very clean. It was thin, and it was like something you would make at home. They made something special for me, and I still had maybe a good 12 hours, 13 hours before I had to run. But that's my biggest thing is that sleep, making sure I'm getting in the sodium that I need, but I make sure that the sodium is coming from, I prefer to put the sodium in my food. So I know for some people they'll get more chips and stuff like that, and I would do that sometimes, but I'm like, okay, since your body is not accustomed to eating so much processed food at this moment, let's make like brown rice and quinoa and chickpeas, and even if I made, chili or something like that, which I didn't eat a whole lot of it back then, I personally would then get the salt itself or the sea salt, and then I would put it on the food. Okay. Instead of more so getting something that's processed. One thing that really helped me too was putting pineapple and ginger in my water. Really? Because it helps with inflammation, amongst other stuff. Okay. Yeah. So I heard that from this guy that's a big time runner. I think he's done the all the continents and everything else. So I remember him saying that when I was a young runner, that to put, I think he said ginger in it. And of course, I put my spin on it, and I think I ended up putting pineapple and ginger together. And another one I put in my Camelback that I wear on my back was also mint. Okay, yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, because for me, when I started running, and because I started my wellness, my weight loss journey in 2005, where I said, okay, I'm in grad school, you're in this accelerated program, you full-time work, kind of stressful, and you want to get through this accelerated MPA program as quickly as possible. I said, let's be realistic. You're finishing classes at 10 o'clock. You still got to drive home, get ready for work in the morning, etc. I said, let me work on my food. So I had at least a good 10 months or so to really research and just work on the food. And I said, the day that you finish your last class, you have to incorporate exercise, because now you're going to be free. Once you get off of work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, your afternoons will be free. And I think my last class was somewhere around like September 9th, 2006. And that's when I started, I would say, my journey from there, where I put both of them together and I never looked back. Because just imagine, it was starting to get dark. For me, I don't like it. But I walked and then people was like, hey, you want to start incorporating weights. So I didn't have a gym membership, but I used the little gym at my job. You know, ain't much. They got the little bootleg radio tied up mic that a 2-year-old wouldn't play with, but I utilized it. I was like, why do they have this tied up? This thing older than all of us in here. But I used what was available to me and not use an excuse of not doing it. And then when this season, around April started, that's when the weight really started to come off. I started to see progress because now it's sunny. And I'm sure all of us thrive from the sunshine, but I think some of us really open up and blossom even more. Because I think during the winter, I just survive. I thrive a little bit, but once it gets warm, especially as an adult, I'd rather be outside. I want to be bouncing on bleachers, and I want to run up and down a hill, and so that's when it started coming off and just starting to walk more. And my dad have evolved with my plant-based food. I did a lot more soy stuff, and then I went no soy for a while. And then one time I experimented with no beans, no fruit, and no grains for, I think, 52 days. I wanted to see how my body would change because not all whole foods work the same way for everybody. And I think as plant-based, a.k.a. vegans, we have to be okay with that. We think everything works for everybody, and that's not true. And I think once we become confident and realize that veganism is more than the fork and more than us, that it's okay if somebody say, you know what, I can't eat as much fruit. I know of people that's vegan, and they say their pages and stuff on Instagram, I won't call any names, where they say they do like 4 and 5 bananas in the morning and pineapples. My body cannot take that.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
I automatically gain weight. I can't do all that carbs. There are some people that are actually carb sensitive. I had a friend that I was training. She went to the doctor and found that out. And then she had some other issue that was a challenge for her to conceive, but it was also a challenge for her to lose weight. So now for me, becoming more mature, being more confident in the person that I am, and realizing that I will continue to evolve, and it's okay for everybody else to evolve, is to practice compassion. I'd rather say, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I never thought about that. Okay. Then trying to argue with you, Mike, all night about why you don't eat bananas. And I'm saying bananas work for me.
Yeah. You're right, because a lot of times I think we have to meet people where they're at. You know what I mean? Right. And like you said, find out what works for them, because it'll be different for different people.
Yeah. I know some people that they eat a lot of fruit. I'm like in a vegan bodybuilding group on Facebook. The amount of fruit these ladies eat, and they are cut up. When I tell you their abs and stuff, that don't work for Shonda. So Shonda need to stay in her lane. Mm-hmm. But I did see a big change with my body when I pulled back all of that natural sugar. I was always curious about it. And again, just like with the meat, the only way you can find something out, you have to go through it. Yep. Now, unless I said the stove is hot, don't touch it, you see somebody got burned. That's different. And I'm telling you, then I had people that was, I guess, following me and was like, well, why aren't you eating this? And I didn't want to pop off on them. I was like, you know what? I'm just experimenting. You go ahead and eat your beans and your food, because I guess they were kind of getting discouraged and confused. I said, no, I'm just experimenting. I said, if you know me, you know I'm always trying to experiment, and I'm always curious, but my body changed. But you know what? I couldn't keep doing that. Could you imagine finishing a run, Mike, and it's all this fruit and oranges and bananas, and you're talking about, no, I'm not going to eat any. I had a lot of races at that time. So my friend said, it's pretty interesting to not see you eat any fruit. But my bigger goal was, don't touch it and give yourself some time. I think I was only going to do maybe 2 weeks or a month, but I am Shonda. Here we go. I kept pushing it. After a while, I was like, Mike, I can't do this. I was like, I miss my fruits and I miss my beans and all that stuff.
But I like that you said that, though, and it's a great message for everyone listening, is that don't be afraid to experiment. Because I think a lot of people think that sometimes that, you know, when they're going to like a plant-based vegan, you know, lifestyle, and the eating part of that lifestyle, that they hear people talk about certain foods or whatever, and they think, oh, I have to eat that. And it's no, there's so much variety. Find what works well for you, and don't get discouraged. Like you were saying, I'm with you. I can eat 4 bananas in one sitting. It works for somebody, but for most of us, probably we ate that. Oh my gosh, we'd probably, you know, just feel bad or bloat or whatever. And then someone may take it the wrong way, especially maybe someone first starting out, you know, going to a plant-based vegan and get discouraged saying, well, quote, this isn't for me. No, it is for everybody, but it's just in different, if you will, moderation or different, like you said, lanes. And so I love that you pointed that out so people listening hear that, you know?
Well, that's true. And something that I find that really, really my body loves is quinoa. But something else that I realized that I was eating, and to me I found it was craving, was amaranth. And most people may not know what it is. Amaranth. So for those who are listening, it's AMARANTH. And this lady that I know that's a holistic practitioner, certified holistic practitioner, she said it might just be, outside of you really liking it, she said amaranth is so potent with nutrients and stuff. She said your body currently might be craving those things. Because I kid you not, I would go downstairs, because I have a 2-story house, to go get something to eat. And I'm like, nah, I'm just going to eat some amaranth. And that was the last thing on my mind. But because I saw it, I was like, I want some amaranth. And I didn't really care for it at first because, you know, it's a little seedy thing. It's not filling. But I realized I could eat that, and I could eat it all day, and the scale wouldn't move in a good way. It wouldn't go up.
Yeah.
I would eat quinoa. Quinoa doesn't bother me. The scale don't go up. Sweet potato, the same thing. Let me go try doing the same thing with some brown rice. It goes right up, and it goes up real quick.
Oh, my gosh.
Real quick. So, like I was saying, you got to try and see what foods work for you and what doesn't. Like for me, if I'm not in training season, I have no business eating the amount of volume. Like the amount of food that I was eating in November, October of 2015, for instance, I had no business eating that in November of 2016, nor right now, because I'm not in that training mode. And a lot of people don't realize that unless you are doing something to justify the volume, you're not going to get the results you want. Because if I sit down and eat 2 sweet potatoes today and I didn't work out, it's going to affect my body differently than if I had ran even 5 miles, which, I mean, is still a lot for people. But you see what I'm saying? You have to make sure that it balances out. And I realize for a lot of people, especially newer plant-based people, they eat too much fruit at one serving. And I'm starting to see that, especially a lot of people that follow me online. Their breakfast ain't nothing but fruit. And you must have protein. And you need to have protein first thing in the morning. If there's nothing else you eat, you should have some type of protein first thing in the morning, because it's going to help you as well throughout the day. I saw this young lady posted it online that I know, and I showed it to 2 of my coworkers in a fitness facility that I work in. And before I could finish my sentence, he said she don't have any protein on her plate. And I was like, whoa, good job, Josh. He said, I can see from over here. Because I was on a treadmill. I had a coworker on a treadmill, and he was on the Stairmaster. He said, you don't even have to show it to me. He said, it looks like she got an apple, a banana. He said, it looks like she got yogurt, granola, and she got strawberries and blueberries. And he said, and then she got a salad with cucumbers and tomatoes. And I think what she posted was, this is my, that was pretty much to hold her breakfast and lunch. He was like, she don't have any protein. He was like, where's her protein? He said, that's too much sugar. And even if she had went and ran, because she's a runner, let's say she had swam, you know, a lap or 2, or did something, ran 10 miles, if she wanted to just inhale that and then have protein after or before, that'd be okay. But first thing in the morning, so that's something that we have to definitely get out to our plant-based people and those who are following on that journey, to make sure that your plate stays balanced.
I like that. Well, let's continue your progression, because I know there's a lot of things you do. You stay very busy. I know you well, but also I know you're like a wellness advocate. So I want to know when that kind of evolved for you. Because again, you and I have talked, and I know you give back to a lot of people with helping them with their health, their wellness, and their fitness. So how did that evolve, and kind of what does that mean to you?
So for me, once I lost before I lost my weight, so I was thinking while I was back at home, I would go down. I was part of the student government, part of civic activities. I would help senators with their campaign and things like that when I was still in high school. Like if my mom was looking for me, there's like, she's probably down at the legislative building with one of those senators or out campaigning or something like that. So for me, when I came here, my undergraduate degree was in political science, and then my master's was in public administration. And I thought about, you know, becoming a judge, and or attorney, or both. And I said I would really like to go back home and become be part of the political system, etc. But for me, in a nutshell, having struggled with my weight from, I would say, middle school, as far back as I can remember, middle school, because my mom said I was slim, and I was like, do you have any proof of that? Because I don't. But so from middle school, struggling with my weight, going to the gym on the island with my with my neighbor, always struggling with it up through college. I came here, the classmates and those on campus, it was such a big shock. They were so thin and slim, or slender, however you want to word a combination, and then you being subconscious about the weight, etc. Mm-hmm. And then being able to deal with some trauma and things like that, and then being able to lose the weight, still doing my job. I was in the insurance business. By then I got my degree. And then I realized being able to help people, just giving them information. I used to meet up with some friends from the islands and the Greenway, just kind of like torture them on Saturday, like run, walk, and we'd have fun. And people would ask me questions, and I would help some classmates remotely that lived in different parts of the world with their children, etc. And I was like, oh, I might want to get certified. I'm interested in this. So in 2013, when I had an opportunity to step away from corporate America, I did, because by then I was already helping clients. I actually had my business set up, and I was actually helping clients. And I remember sometimes my coworker would be like, oops, this is your contract that was on the printer. So when I had an opportunity to leave the company, I did, because they were doing outsourcing. They were like, well, you of all your coworkers, we're going to pull you on the side. We want to keep you. But they were like, we know that wellness is a part of you, because by then I was helping managers, and, I would lead the organization in stretches and walking and all that good stuff. So they already knew. And they saw my transformation as well, because I was at this large insurance company here. So they saw me going down to the gym, etc. So they saw me pretty much release 90 pounds right in front of their eyes in 11 months. So once the last day there, I think it was like July of 2013. And then from there, Mike, I went under the radar. If you didn't catch me at church, the grocery store, at the bank, or with one of my clients, or if you weren't one of my clients, you saw me nowhere. I just pretty much immersed myself in my studies through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and I became a certified personal trainer. So kind of for me, Mike, it was kind of for me to learn more, because again, I did not want to gain the weight back, because you only see these people, quote unquote, online that have lost weight, but you rarely see anyone, or back then, that had lose the weight and keep it off. So people was like, oh, you're going to try this? Good luck. And then when I lost it, well, I don't know anybody that lost that amount of weight and or kept it off. So for me, it was continuing to do research, etc. And then from there, I said, oh, you know what? I'm interested in learning more stuff. And that's when I decided to do become a weight loss specialist through the same academy. And then and then I decided further to do my fitness nutrition specialization. I said, I'm really interested in this. And when I started running in 2011, I was already pretty fit in terms of the gym and all that stuff. And one of my friends, she was training for a 5K. And this is how clueless I was. And I was like, if she's doing a 5K, why should she running 2 miles and 3 miles? But I never said anything. I just meet on the Greenway and run with her. And then I found out about it. And then I joined the organization here. And I remember they said, my friend, it's so funny, she was one of the run coordinators of the organization we were in. And I was like, oh, I want to come out, but I'm nervous. So when I joined the group, they was like, oh my gosh, you're so motivational. Would you be one of the ambassadors? And I was like, no, I don't know about this. I said, these ladies are running these crazy miles. I just walk, They were like, no, people gravitate to you. And they finally convinced me to do it. But I think 2011 in September, right coming up on Labor Day, they were like, are you going to come out? And I was like, I'm scared to death. They were like, there's no way you're scared to death with all this, these squats and all this stuff that you do. We follow you. So long story short, I think the Friday I was off. So I told them, I said, okay, I'm going to come out on the Thursday and run the Thursday evening run, because the Friday I'm off, in case y'all try to kill me. Long story short, we met at the Mallard Creek Greenway. So I'm like, I know, I'm scared. So the lady was like on the Greenway, she was like, I'm going to run down, and then when I'm coming back, we'll come back. But I think instead of her going straight and coming back, she made a right. And she was saying, oh, all these ladies that's coming out, Mike, they all new. So I have time to make a right and go up this hill on Mallard Creek and come back down before anybody pass her. Well, I didn't know my strength. She didn't know me. I went flying on the Greenway, and I'm like, where's this lady? So you'll see a couple people, Mike, and you don't see anybody. And I was like, oh, heck, now I'm going to get snatched In my island, people are going to be like, we don't do the bushes. And I ended up running on the greenway for a long time. And I still see my friend. We were talking about it the other day. And this is, 6 years ago? And she said, yeah, I had to come and flipping chase you down. I needed to get my kids out of the daycare. People were already back at home. And it was like, where's Shonda? It was like, I thought you didn't run. I thought you weren't a runner. But I think it's because I started with squats and lunges and the strength training part. When I added in running, it came natural for me. And they used to call me Speedy Caines. They were like, we're not running with you. And I was like, why won't you? They were like, let's see how you bounce the hills and stuff like that. They were like, I don't know what you eat. I don't know what plants you on. They were like, but it's not natural. And that's how I really got into it. And I said, okay, again, with running, I want to learn more about running. So what do? You become a certified run coach. So for me, Mike, initially it was for me to learn more, to find the best company. And this company, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, that's the one that I understand that the NBA and NFL prefer. That's one of their top preference. Oh, wow. Yeah, it was a lot of money, but I decided, you know what, if you're going to do this, go with a good one where wherever you choose to work or affiliate with, they'll take you. So that's how that started for me. And I started my business in 2013, and since then I've changed the name. So now I do speaking, and I ultimately help women primarily meet and exceed whatever their goals are. And it could be unique to whomever. I have helped guys before. I love working with families as well. That's something a niche that I find comes natural to me. Like if a woman comes to me and we're talking and find out she has a husband or significant other in the house, I like to speak to him. I like to have a one-on-one, like outside, and for him to understand that you are responsible for their health. And I'm like face to face with them, and I feel so comfortable, and it's empowering.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious? I'm like, look, dude, you are responsible for them. What are you bringing into the house? What examples are you showing or not showing to your lady and your children if you have children? And it's, and then they'll be like, Shonda said, and they'll be like, oh, you weren't listening to me. And all he says in the house is Shonda said this, Shonda said that. Even when I was just dealing with just the female, the little nuggets I share with him, they'll call me and say, you know what, my husband getting on my nerves. And I said, why? He just walked around saying, Shonda said we should eat this. Shonda said we should eat that. So I picked up on it. And I was like, oh, okay. I really like working with guys, but more so in that sense. So for me, it's been the last 4 years has just been evolution, evolving as a human being, as what my niche is, what really comes natural to me, listening to my clients and my avatar. So for me, ultimately, it's a ministry. It's a ministry to help people realize that we have to get healthier, and it's not the government's responsibility. We need to hold them accountable. Absolutely. We need to challenge them. But it's so important for us to look at our nieces and nephews and our children and realize that they are our legacy. It's not this house I'm in. It's not these shoes I'm putting on them, but it's what you're feeding them or not feeding them. So for me now, the biggest thing now is being a wellness catalyst. So what is that? I'm going to propel you, challenge you, stretch you to go somewhere that you want to be and a little bit beyond that. And then I'm going to help you maintain it. So for me, it's a lifestyle. And then also being a fitness chef. I've been cooking since the age of 9. Both of my parents cook professionally. My youngest sister is trained. I'm self-taught. And then the speaker part of it, and I'll just add in author to my repertoire. Just telling my story and being able to let people see that the things that happen to us in our childhood and in our adulthood affects us, and it can hinder our health, even with weight. So if you came to me, Mike, I might ask you, what is really weighing you down, Mike? What is weighing you down? Is it rejection, that you've had from your father or him not being there? Is it people telling you you can't and can't do it? Is it a marriage that you were in that your wife just beat you down verbally, that now you don't stand with your shoulders square and your chest out like you matter? Like, what is it? so we can work through it. And if it's outside of my scope of practice, let me refer you out to somebody in my network. And then with seeking, being able to go out and share my story, and also to let people know that I'm still evolving. Until you take your last breath, change is okay. Failure means lessons are happening. And then with also being able to put pen to paper, like you see that I'm doing now, where I didn't want to speak, I didn't want to share. You know, nobody want to be vulnerable. Nobody want to be transparent, because it could be scary. It is scary. But what we have been through, all of us, somebody has been through it. And it's freeing to be able to tell your story, but you also need a village. And I always talk about it's so important for women to have a tribe, to have a village, for me to be able to come and say, Mike, you know what, I'm tired. I need to go on a vacation. And you're being able to know who I am and not say, girl, just suck it up and be like, you know what, Shonda, go ahead and take a nap or take a day or two off. I know you like the mountains. Go to the mountains for a day. But when you come back, we need you to get back to what God has called you for. And that's so important. And that goes back to compassion, not just compassion for the animals and nonviolence to all living things and to the earth and everything. But a lot of us forget to have compassion towards ourselves.
Well, and I love what you say, too, about that you know it's constant change and constant growth, because I think that's so important, because a lot of people, you know, I get the questions, I'm sure you do, when people talk to you about, all right, well, if I shifted this, you know, plant-based vegan lifestyle way of eating, I think a lot of times they think, number one, that they either have to do it all at once, which you were gradual, I was gradual. A lot of people are gradual. So I love telling people, look, it doesn't have to be overnight. Some people can do it. You don't have to do it overnight. And then, you find what works for you and continually work at it. It's like anything else. You continue work to improve yourself. You know, and you listen to your story about you kept getting degrees because you wanted to continue to improve upon yourself to better serve others. I love what you said, wellness catalyst. I love that. I think that's
thank you.
Awesome.
I gotta propel you. You know what? Something too, Mike, that I kind of discourage people from a little bit. If I know them, if they say, you know what, I'm gonna cut all meat and go vegan tomorrow. I said, you know what? The first thing, and I'm even getting goosebumps. I said, the first thing I want you to do is find your why, and then find your why. Why do you want to go? Is it because these celebrities and these people that you guys put on a pedestal is doing it? Is it something that's always been inside of you? Is it because your doctor said you need to do it? Is it where the animals are talking to you like they talk to me? Do you feel it's the right thing to do? I said my biggest thing that I encourage people to do is to first increase your fruits and vegetables in your water. Because if you start eating more fruits and vegetables, Mike, and you haven't been, you don't have room for all the extra stuff. Because think about it. If you start drinking 64 ounces of water and you were not drinking that much, but you say you're only drinking 20 ounces, it's impossible for you to still get in all that coffee with that creamer and all that soda. You don't have enough space in your stomach. You know, and I tell them, I said, be compassionate to yourself. And I'll let them know that I transitioned. And mine was more so evolving. And, you know, somebody say, I have people come up to me now and say, I want to work with you, but I'm not vegan and I don't plan to be. And I'm like, that's okay. I said, number one, I don't think any of my clients are vegan, I think. And people are surprised. I said, you know what I tell them? I said, I live an open book. I said, a lot of times if my clients are open to something, Mike, and I go to the grocery store, let's say I go to Aldi's and I spend $30. What I find that I would do for my clients are really receptive, which all of them are, because I'm hands-on. You know, on Facebook, I text you in a minute. I need your meal plan, or I need you to sleep, or I need you to show me in the morning what you're eating, etc. I do these audits. They know if you come work with me, my time is precious. Yours is, but mine is exponentially precious, because God has called me to work with specific people, and I do turn people down. Because if I ask you from a scale of 1 to 10 how serious you are, and you're telling me 5 and 6, you know, let's pray about it. And when you get to about 9 or 10, contact me. In the interim, I got other people out here that's saying that my doctor is saying I'm not going to survive. Or I had a family reach out to me saying that their 7-year-old is 100 pounds. And the doctor said he cannot gain another ounce. I need to get to him. So for me, it's about quality over quantity. And in business, that is so important, because I'd rather have just 10 clients where I'm helping them and it's enriching my life than having 30 for the money and I'm stressed out. And you could tell I'm stressed out because I come train you, I'm yawning. I got all this gray hair I didn't have. I might be snapping at you and I don't realize it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a lifestyle. So I tell people all the time to increase your fruits and vegetables. But I'll send my clients a thing. I say, hey, man, I just went to Harris Teeter. Look all this stuff I got for $30. It's in this side of the grocery store. This is on sale. And they'd be like, and then even I've had some too where they may not respond right back, but maybe the next day I might get a text and say, hey, I went to the store and I got everything you got, but then I just got some of my meat. Sorry. And I said, no, that's okay. And that took time for me. Mm-hmm. I don't shun them. I don't make them feel bad. And I always wondered, Mike, when I got on Facebook, I think I got on Facebook in 2009. My sister signed me up. And I always wondered what type of vegan I wanted to be. Did I want to be one that's just showing constantly these animals that's being abused and eaten and cut up in these little things for nuggets and stuff? Did I want to just have a mixture? Or do I want to live a life that piques people's interest? And I said, you know what? What would you want, Shonda? So I said, let me give them what I would want. And what I decided to do is live a lifestyle that piques people's interest and convict them on their own spectrum. Because I have people all the time that would inbox me. They may not put it on my page, but they'll inbox me. And they'll say, hey, I had a salad today, or I did salads for a week and we didn't have meat every day. We only had meat like 3 times. And I showed my husband what you did, or I told my husband how you ran 20 miles and you ate quinoa and lentils and stuff like that. Or I showed him your blood work. You know, I screenshot it. Scariest thing. They're like, I screenshot your meal plan. And I told hubby, let's try it. And I waited for us to try it and let you know. You know, this is the type of stuff that I get when people will be like, we're now doing a vegan challenge. And, you know, at first I'd side-eye, like, the vegan ain't no daggone challenge. Come on. And I said, you know what, Shonda, they're trying. Just like their post and just say congratulations. And I think a lot of plant-based / vegans, however we want to use it, we need to realize that we would get to more people faster if we take ourselves and our emotions out of the equation. Because if you start asking vegans, plant-based people, where were you 20 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago? Where were you 5 years ago? They'll be like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah. How quick we forget where we were.
Yep.
So for me, I see it differently because I'm a professional. This is my life. So I see it differently if I ask people like, what do they eat? On my 5-page questionnaire, I ask people, what do they eat? And I've even gotten to the point now where my clients say I eat salmon and stuff. Before I would just say, eat lean protein. This was like maybe 3 years ago. Eat lean protein. But if she says she eats salmon now, you know what I say? Make sure it's organic and it's wild caught. She gonna eat it anyway, Mike.
Yeah.
She gonna eat it anyway, and I'm not gonna end up putting a ridge between my client and I that's already trusting me with her most sacred information. Because if I've already gotten you to the point where you're telling me that you're gonna try the Gardein crumbles, whether you're gonna sneak it in on the family and not tell them.
Yeah, exactly. Sneaky.
Or you're gonna have like or you guys now do Meatless Monday.
Yep.
I'd be an idiot to make something as minute, in my opinion, you know, have a setback. Yep. Or whatever the case may be.
That's a big deal to them. You're right, because it's like to take, for example, like what you're talking about running. Like, you know, some people going out that are listening to this right now, running a mile is a big deal. Some people listening to this right now, 5 miles is a big deal. Some 10. It's all relative. However, it's still, you know, if they're pushing themselves, that's awesome. And they're making those steps. I mean, and I love it. I often tell people, you know, a lot of times people will ask me, is the purpose of what you're doing to make everyone vegan, plant-based? I'm like, no, I just want to spread information so people have that knowledge and then they can make their own decisions. I mean, I look at it like this. If like, Shonda, you and I have someone that comes to us and they're literally a couch potato, not moving. And then they say, you know what, my goal is to run a marathon by the end of the year. And in 1 year, they run a 5K. I consider that a big victory still.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. It is. It absolutely is. I've had ladies where when I let her run, I would let my usuals go. And I started to the point where I would stay back with them. And I said, do you mind me touching you? And they say, yeah. I said, do you mind me checking your shoelaces? And they were like, I come 30 minutes away. I pass other run groups to come to yours because I heard you're a beast. You chase them around. You say, if I say, hey, you're talking, you need to run. They said, but your hands on is second to none. And I'm untying these flipping ladies' shoes and retying them. I said, your shoe either look too tight where your circulation is going to give out on my route. And I was to tell them, I ain't come out here to go to the hospital with you. We all cool and stuff, but I'm fit. Look, Mike, I'm fitting to call whoever. Matter of fact, I'm fitting to call whoever your emergency contact is, and I'm going home. Or I tell them, yeah, and they'll laugh. And I tell them, too, we're not picking leaves out here, meaning if you're going to come out here and I'm going to come out here, we're not taking a stroll. You do that after dinner. But they say what they like and they love is the authenticity. Like, you keep it real. Because I remember one time I was with this lady, and then I think she finished. She didn't do as far as everybody else. So I made sure she went back safely, and I took off running. And I came up on them. They didn't see me. And I was like, why are you walking? Why are you walking? You should be running. And I was like, Shonda's coming. She's crazy. And we took off running, and we had fun, but it's a big deal. Just like for me now, once the spring comes, it's almost like I'm starting over. So people cannot grasp how do you go from such high miles in the fall and then go to like literally no running. And then even some people would throw shade saying real runners run all year. And I'm like, oh, really? So, Mike, here we go again. People trying to tell people and Shonda S. Caines what she can't and can't do. I said, what? Nope. I said, but what the crazy thing is, though, I said, you run all year. I choose to get off the pavement and swim and bike and lift more during that time. I said, one, I don't like the cold. I'm not a paid professional. I said, when I run in the cold, I feel like Fat Albert is on my chest. And I said, again, my family live in the Caribbean, and it goes back to being an individual and figuring out what work and don't work for you. I said, but also, you've been running all year. I done took off like 5-6 months by choice. I said, but when we run together, after my hiatus, I said, I'm either running faster than you or you're staying pace. I was like, your point is, I said, see, we need to humble ourselves. Mm-hmm. So you know what I do? I swim, I bike, I lift more, and then I start off like now walking. Last 2 years, I walk like almost 5 to 6 miles a day. I'm just out. I'm giving God praise and glory. I'm grateful to still be alive, and I got through the winter. And then I'm walking and walking, and then they were like, but what I don't understand is, Shonda, you go from 3 miles to 4 miles, and then we see you ran 10 miles. You ran 12 miles, but you ran for a couple months. I said, it's mental. I said, for me, this is a lifestyle. I said, if I feel like running 20 miles, I'm going to run. I said, because if 3 of those miles I feel like walking and eating a flipping orange, that's what I'm going to do. I said, you guys put too much pressure on yourself. Mm-hmm. I said, you're not a paid athlete. Some of y'all get offended, but you're not a paid athlete. Right? Just enjoy it.
Exactly. Enjoy it. Well, all right, listen. I knew this would happen because you and I have got to know each other, my friend, and I love your passion and energy. So for people listening, all right, we've talked about a couple of things. Where can they find you, like online? And I like that because I know people are listening that want to follow you now, and I advise them to do that because, like I said, you and I are connected on Facebook. I love your posts and your updates. So where can they find you?
So where they can find me on Instagram, you can find me Shonda, SHONDA _Caines, C as in Charlie, AINES. So Shonda _Caines, and it'll pull up. I'm in a purple dress. On Facebook, they can follow me under my business page. If you type in Shonda S as in Sam Caines, it'll come up. You can find me there. I'm on Twitter, not as much, but it's at Shonda Caines. There as well. And I also, before we leave, and my website, I just had it redone, so I'm still building it up. It's ShondaSCaines.com. So
there you go.
I'm rebranding up under my name, and I'm putting Awaken Your Wellness, the wellness part up under that, Awaken Your Wellness, and also EBN's Vegan Cuisine. I don't know, Mike, if you know, but EBN stands for Earthbound and Nutty. EBN's Vegan Cuisine. It's
I love it.
That. And I want them lastly to look into the 2 books that I have coming out. One of them is called Lifting the Weight to Total Transformation. And the other one is God Says I'm Battle Scar Free. So those are 2 things that we have, and it talks about just the journey and the transformation and how we evolve and the stuff that I've been through that is able to help me help others. So definitely, I love for them to connect. And what I'd like for you guys to do, listeners, when you connect, just put, hey, I heard you on Vegan Tour Guide, so I could connect and know. And if you guys have any questions, definitely reach out. The spring is here, so if you're in the area, you ever want to get up and work out or do anything, definitely shoot me a message, and we can definitely connect. Mike, you're awesome. You're doing great work. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I done did 55 minutes in the gym. I think I'm either going to go for a walk.
Hey, you and I knew this would happen. We knew this would happen. So I love it. Look, there's people, I guarantee you, listen, they are lacing up their tennis shoes right now after they heard your energy.
I tell people, Mike, walking is dope. I'm a runner. Don't get it twisted. I tell people all the time, I may have done 50 miles, but I started walking, and I will never disown it. Walking is dope. Get outside, get a walk in, take a broomstick with you. Be an islander. They laugh at me. Take a stick with you. Let somebody know where you're going. Hydrate and make it a lifestyle, one step at a time.
I love it.
Eat more veggies.
You and I are going to do another episode because I know we got so much more to talk about. And so we will plan it. Of course, you and I see each other here at a bunch of events, both of us living in Charlotte, North Carolina. So thank you so much. Much love to you. And I know I'll see you soon. And just thank you so much for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Make sure you get in some sunshine as well, Mike, and take care of yourself. All right. Take care.
Okay, everybody. Thanks so much, Shonda, for coming on the show. Great having you on the Vegan Tour Guide. Did I tell all y'all, or did I tell you, she brought energy? Shonda's got a lot of energy. But you see, what fuels that is her passion. I mean, her passion is phenomenal. You can hear it coming through her. And it just, I loved everywhere this conversation, everywhere. I mean, we talked about, her journey growing up. And, and Shonda, I'm hearing this from a lot of people, and those that follow the podcast for a while now, you'll hear this, and you'll remember from previous podcast episodes. A lot of times for people, it's that connection for them, almost like the tipping point sometimes, is when they make that connection between what is on their plate is like, something they've seen living, like they've seen a cow at the farm or something like that. And they've just kind of never made that connection. And so I like she brought that up. And I bring that up to people because sometimes I do get people saying, hey, I think it would be hard to cut this out, of the way I eat or that out. And I remind them the power of the mind. You heard Shonda say this and multiple times today from even training and stuff like that. But she talked about the power of the mind. And I remind people, the power of the mind when they are, looking to make changes. Because look, like we said, I never say it's going to be easy and all like that. The purpose of this show is to give you tips, pointers, ideas and stuff like that. But for some people, it will be a little bit harder than others to maybe start phasing things out or phase some of those favorite, animal products they use. However, rely on the power of the mind. Because a lot of times you hear, like Shonda was saying, that when people make that connection, that mental connection, almost visual, when they say, wow, wait a minute, what, I was eating on my plate was what I think is so, cool and cute and funny, out there on a farm and all. Once they make that, it is that tipping point. So that's another idea maybe for you, just kind of, in your brain, kind of put it in that way. Say, hey, this is going to help me power through the beginning stages and to power through, making the change. So that's an idea. I mean, gosh, her story's phenomenal. I mean, Shonda, thanks so much for sharing. I mean, I don't know if y'all caught that. I mean, she, how she even kind of just threw in there a little bit. I mean, Shonda, lost 90 pounds, in a year there. I mean, great transformation. And then she loses that. And then in a short amount of time, she starts running races and then distance races. And then hold on to your hat. 3 marathons, 2 5Ks, and a 50-miler in 33 days. What? I mean, that is insane. That is so cool. I mean, I love, again, she's just sharing a lot of information, and I'm going to put it, in the show notes and all like that, because I always get people asking, especially like for performance and stuff like that, even, what are tips, and tricks, if you will, that people are using. You heard her talking about, drinking tart cherry juice. She's using that while she's running the long distance. She loves making her green barley. She called it the green barley drink, throwing some spirulina, some maca, her protein powder in there, some chia, some flax, and then pick out, kind of your favorite non-dairy milk, throw it in there, put it on the blender, boom, there you go. You got the green barley. Love that. Loved her talking about that. I loved amaranth. I mean, she's got me now going to look for amaranth. Like, I'll be honest, I've never taken it before, not that I know of, but you know what? I'm gonna go try it now. I mean, like, if it's giving her that energy and she's doing these ultra marathons and stays as busy as she stays, the amount of times that she trains personally herself and then trains others daily, look, I'm in. I'm going to find it out. I mean, look, It helped her get the title Speedy Caines, by her fellow runners. And so all of y'all, again, like she said, if you want to follow her on Instagram, Shonda_Caines, and that's SHONDA_CAINES. Or ShondaSCaines.com is the website she's getting ready to launch. So go check her out there. Check her out at Shonda Caines, also on Facebook. And like I said, these will, of course, be in the show notes for you as well. So you can find them there. And, of course, you find all that at vegantourguide.com. And always, check out what I've got going on and posting at, Facebook.com, /Vegan Tour Guide. Vegan Tour Guide across all social media platforms. So it's real easy, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You'll find everywhere Vegan Tour Guide. And then vegantourguide@gmail.com is where you can send all your emails. Love getting them. Always respond to every one of them. Thank you so much for that. Thanks everybody again for helping spread the word. That's with me. I want to spread the word to get information out there to everyone. So thank you so much for your part in doing that. Forward it on, subscribe to the show, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever your method is, subscribe there. They've got the subscription button. If you go to my homepage on vegantourguide.com, that is actually where you'll see the little subscription button down there, like that little 3 button, like little 3 dot icon or whatever. If you click on that, it'll kind of bring some more stuff down for you. So in case you're subscribing from directly my website instead of iTunes or something, you could do it there. Always, if you have any troubles, of course, email me, vegantourguide@gmail.com, and continue just to make the change in your life. I want to hear from you. Make those changes. You've heard Shonda say it as well. One step at a time. Stay in your lane. Like she said, stay in your lane, make that one step at a time, and keep moving forward. I mean, that's what we got to do in all phases of our life. Whether we're talking about, plant-based, vegan, incorporating this into your lives, just maybe a change of attitude, change of scenery, everything, one step at a time. Take it, and it makes it a whole lot easier for us to grasp instead of looking at some monumental task, trying to do it in one day. Okay? So please keep that in mind. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to talking to you soon through the podcast. As always, I want to give a big shout out to Pat Flynn for his information and inspiration on putting together the podcast, and to bensound.com for the use of the audio music in the podcast. And until next time, everybody, live Pura Vida.